Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is Tobe Hooper's sequel to his original horror classic. This time he had a bigger budget and a much bigger reputation, so what could go wrong? Well, the film was released 12 years after the first film, and it's set 13 years after the events of the first movie. This movie is more of a horror comedy, and it tries to show that by having the original poster of the film a reference to The Breakfast Club. It's like Tobe Hooper was trying too hard to make the advertisements for the film scream the fact that it was a comedy. Unlike the first movie, this film doesn't take itself too seriously. Although the first movie had some mild dark comedy throughout, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 features considerably more comedy and much more gore, which are two of the main things the first movie didn't feature at all, really. The film received a vast amount of criticism from the fans, however it has gradually made its place as a unique sequel, which has become more and more popular over time. In the movie there's an entirely new family of serial killers, with Jim Sadow, who's the only returning character from the first movie. He was by far one of my favourite actors from the original, and does a great job playing the chef in this film. Bill Johnson takes over as Leatherface this time, who I think fills the role well. One of the most insane characters of the film though is Chop Top, portrayed by Bill Moseley. The introduction this character has is phenomenal. He starts off as a crazed fan and somehow develops more and more strangely as the film goes on. To make things even more weird, he has a metal plate on his head which he keeps picking at with some kind of coat hanger. His character also bears some similarities to the hitchhiker from the first movie. Dennis Hopper plays the film's protagonist and is just about as crazy as the family of cannibals. It's implied at the beginning of the film that he spent years looking into the murders which took place in the first movie, and finally decides to take the law into his own hands in order to bring the killers to justice. Finally, there's Caroline Williams, who plays the DJ of the late-night radio station. Her character feels pretty out of place in my opinion, and it only really feels like they only decided to incorporate her into the story so that she could play the damsel in distress character. Oh, and strangely enough, she also plays Leatherface's love interest. That's how weird this film actually is. Leatherface actually has a love interest. If that isn't weird enough, he even grinds his chainsaw against her and dry humps her. Speaking of Leatherface, all his character seems to do throughout the film is a weird dance whilst holding his chainsaw above his head. He does this multiple times throughout the film, to which in my opinion is kinda random. Also, at the beginning of the movie, he attacks two guys in a car with a chainsaw while standing on top of a moving vehicle holding a corpse in front of him. Why is he holding a corpse? I have no idea. The scene towards the end at the dinner table is almost unbearable in my opinion. The majority of the scene just features Caroline Williams screaming constantly to the point of it just coming across as annoying. The fight towards the end of the film between Leatherface and the sheriff is great, however, and is something I knew was going to happen eventually. There's something satisfying about seeing a chainsaw on chainsaw fight. Overall, the film is no way as good as the original, however it's good for what it is. The film has a great 80s feel, which is expressed to an extent through the soundtrack and wacky dialogue. Overall, I rate it a 6 out of 10.